Hi, I'm Elisa Casas. The Golden Podcast is an extension of my Instagram presence where, as an accidental influencer, I talk about vintage jewelry and share personal stories about my life in New York City. Join me and my guests as we explore, with humor and honesty, timeless topics about the female experience. Dating, relationships, work-life balance, aging, personal growth, fashion, travel, culture, food, sustainability, and of course, jewelry. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Golden with Elisa Casas. I'm Elisa, and Chelsea Girl is the company that I own. It's part of the antique jewelry community on Instagram. I actually started 30 years ago. I had stores in Soho selling vintage clothing and jewelry. And about 6 or 7 years ago, I segued into selling jewelry on Instagram. So Chelsea Girl NYC and Tales from the Junk Pile are my two Instagram accounts. They're both very different. Chelsea Girl tends to be estate jewelry, diamond jewelry, more upscale jewelry with stones. Whereas Tales from the Junk Pile is gold jewelry that I rescue from the melter. And what that means is that people tend to want to get rid of old jewelry, and they go to a place in New York and sell their old jewelry. And then I get to look through it all and pick out pieces that I think are interesting and sellable. It's a really interesting concept, the idea of rescuing these pieces. Some of them are 200 years old and they're about to be melted. And rescuing them is it's satisfying on a level that I can't even explain, like when you're saving a piece of history from disappearing forever. And customers are very interested in that. And it's also beautiful jewelry. It's beautiful pieces that don't deserve to be melted. They deserve another life. I love antique jewelry because to me it's very sentimental and symbolic and unique. Obviously, each piece is one of a kind. And I love to express myself through jewelry. So for today's podcast, which is about friendship, I decided to stack a few rings that I have that symbolize friendship. I have a French ring, a French enamel ring with the word friendship spelled out in French. I have a Victorian enamel ring that says friendship, and one that says friendship in Latin with two hands clasping. I also have a diamond mitzvah ring. Mitzvah is a strange term. It was a term that was used in the Bible, and it became to be known as a symbol of friendship. And during Victorian times, it was very common for people to give a little gift like a pendant or a ring that symbolized a close friendship between two people. I'm the kind of person that has always nurtured my friendships and relationships my whole life, ever since I was a kid. And it's something actually that I realized only a few years ago. Some people are really focused on their careers. Some people get married and then they're just focused on their husband or wife. I've always been focused on my relationships. I'm the person that organizes every dinner. I'm the person where my loft is where people gather. And I have this maternal kind of thing toward my friends. But I never realized how unusual it is to have these long-term friendships because I just assumed everyone went to school when they were a kid and they made friends, and I assumed that they would still be friends with those people, but they're not. The longer that my friendships go on, the more important they are to me, and I want to nurture them even more. People that knew you when you were a kid and still know you as an adult, they know everything about you. There's a secret language that you don't need to explain why you're doing something or why you're reacting a certain way. They know you that well. And there's such a comfort in that. I think there's a saying, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and one is gold. And I have new friendships that are extremely important to me, but they'll never be the same as an old friendship. So today is our first podcast, and it is about friendship. And I'm here with my friend Beth Nierenberg. She is a licensed therapist and lives in Boston. And we have been friends for 45 friggin' years. We met when we were 14 years old in high school. We've moved all over the country. We've been through all kinds of things together. And here we are at 59 years old. And I call her my bebe. I'm so glad you're here with me today. This is so cool. There's no one I would rather talk about friendship more than you. We've been friends for so long. Do you know that we've been friends longer than all three of our marriages put together? Think about that. That's crazy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
So can I show you what I'm wearing today?
Please.
You'll appreciate it. So I'm wearing 3 rings that all say the word friendship in different ways. One of them is a French ring. It's probably like from 1850, and it spells out the word friendship in French. And then this one is a Victorian ring that says friendship that people used to give to each other, like as a token of their affection. And then this one I just found in the junk pile yesterday. This is 2 hands that are clasped, and it says friendship in Latin. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool.
Yeah.
And very kind of the moment.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love wearing jewelry that has some kind of symbolism or interest in the moment. I know you're wearing everything from me. I love it.
I am
pile.
Decked out in junk pile.
You always look so good.
Thank
You have great taste.
Thank you for being my jewelry dealer.
I love it. I remember when we first met. I can't say I loved you.
Me
And
neither.
I know you didn't love me either. We were brought together by Gabby. So you and Gabby went to middle school together, and then Gabby went to high school with me.
Right.
And that was the core of the group. And then
she was the glue.
She was the glue. And I had a similar thing with my college roommate where I knew that we wouldn't have been friends if we hadn't been forced to live in a room together, but it gave me the opportunity to get to know her instead of dismissing her and saying, oh, this person's not for me. And Doreen and I are still super, super close. But I think in the beginning, there was a little, I don't want to say jealousy, but I knew that you guys had this super close relationship, and I felt a little bit like a third wheel. And that dissipated after a while because the group kind of expanded, and then we were all kind of equals or whatever. But I remember thinking that you were brash. I do.
Yeah.
You were brash.
I was, and I am.
And the other thing was, I remember you knew everybody because you went to Bayside High School. So you didn't just know the people in my tiny little school. You knew everyone in the neighborhood. You knew everyone at the high school. You were like everyone's best friend. You were invited to every party. You were just like this, socialite, like flitting about our neighborhood, our, Whitestone. And it was impressive to me. It was really impressive. You were always sort of bringing new people into the fold. They never kind of stuck the way our core group stuck together that way. But I remember thinking you were very different than me,
Oh, you and I could not have
so
been. I
different.
didn't know what to make of your family. I was like, who are these
I know.
crazy European
My
people?
parents were like Lucy and Ricky in a
didn't
sea of Jewish people.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. You were also a very happy only child, and I was
you
a
weren't.
desperately miserable only child.
Yeah.
And so that gathering thing, that was my way of saving my own life.
Yeah.
Like that was my survival skill. I gathered humans until I found the people I could really love and trust. And then those were the solid.
That's so, I never thought about it that way. I love that you are so aware of that.
100.
So interesting.
I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on therapy and graduate degrees to get here. But you and I could not, I was curvy is the way I'll say it. You were super skinny. You presented in a very curated way. everything about us was so different,
Yeah.
right? I remember I said this recently to somebody when we were kids and we only had landline phones, there was a cutoff time for
Yeah.
when it was no longer
Yeah.
appropriate to call someone's house. I could call your house at 10:30
Anytime.
because you still hadn't eaten dinner.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't understand who these people are. Everybody in my house would be asleep and your parents would be awake and talking and
Yep.
drinking and having dinner. And it was always a very fancy dinner.
Yeah.
I cooked for myself. So it was just all very confusing for me. I think that our relationship, we had a group that moved as a hive
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yep.
We did everything
Oh,
together.
Friday afternoon to Sunday night,
Right.
it was just assumed that we were all going to be together.
Right.
Usually at your house because your parents went away.
Right.
So we all stayed at your
Right.
place.
So I was like a feral child. Nobody was in my house. Everybody came to my house to have fun. And you were a good girl.
Yeah.
You played by the rules. You came home when your parents wanted you to come home. Like you were a good
Yeah.
girl.
I didn't do
I
drugs.
didn't know what to
No.
make of you.
I know. No, I remember, it's funny. I remember always thinking that like I knew something everyone else didn't, or I was maybe more mature or something. I don't know what to call it, but I knew that I didn't need to do the typical teenage things.
Right.
I kind of had loftier goals.
You also
Like I knew
liked
what
your
I wanted.
parents.
I know.
When we were teenagers and everybody hated their parents,
Yeah.
you actually liked your
Yeah,
parents.
I know.
And we were like, what's that? Like they would drive us places and you wouldn't be mortified.
Mhm.
And we'd all be like, if that was my mom, I would be dying right now.
Do you remember FYRK?
Of course.
For your rock knowledge?
Of
Like
course.
I had to know, I was like memorizing the dates that Jim Morrison was born and died, like crazy shit like that. Like I had to know everything. I had to analyze lyrics to the songs.
Right.
I had to read remember when there were albums and like
Liner
liner
notes?
notes? I would read them all. I would study them. I would, and as you know, I love a good mystery. I grew up reading Nancy Drew, my mom's Nancy Drew books. And I think that that's why when you told me you were looking for your birth mother, that I was like, I'll do it. I'll find her.
You did volunteer very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was pre-internet. Like to this day, I don't even know how I did it. I was working for a record company and all I had was my little phone, like my little landline phone. And I think you had a name maybe of your grandparents.
I did.
Your birth grandparents. That was all I had to go on.
So my family history is wild. So I am adopted. I was adopted at birth, as you know. And my parents that raised me got divorced when I was little. And it was just always part of my story. And there was a point I was probably 19 or 20, that my father gave me permission to call the
Mhm.
lawyer that handled my adoption. It was a private adoption.
Sealed adoption.
Yes and no, because it was 1965 and it was private. So some stuff was redacted, but other stuff wasn't. And at one point, my stepmother had a dear friend who did a search for a birth mom, paid a lawyer a lot of money, which I didn't have. And so she said, why don't you call the lawyer and ask what he would do if he was broke and looking for his mother?
Nice.
So I did. I called him and I was like, hey, I can't afford your hourly rate, but what would you do if you were me? And he said, you're Jewish and you were born in New York. Your parents had to be Jewish because in 1965, you couldn't adopt outside your religion, which I didn't know. And if I was you, I would look in cemeteries because dead people don't keep secrets. And so what he was trying to say at the time was like funeral homes and cemeteries and the people that work there are usually a little free flowing with the
Mhm.
information.
Yeah.
And when I shared that with you, you were like, I got this, no problem. And you ran with it completely.
It was 91.
Yeah,
It was 1991.
Yeah.
So we were already friends. We were right out of college and we had been friends for about 10 years.
and I moved back to Boston from LA.
Right.
So I
You were
was
back in Boston.
close-ish.
Hmm.
Um, and being adopted and looking for a birth parent, right? It's anxiety provoking and nauseating at every turn. And so for me, there were a lot of fits and starts in the lead up to you looking.
Yeah.
I would send away to some company that would send you pages from the phone book. And I would get a manila envelope in the mail with 100 pages of phone numbers, starting with this letter and ending with this letter and everything in between. And you could just go through and see if you could find a relative. It was crazy. So I think by the time you and I were talking about it, I was more ready.
Ready. Yeah. I know you weren't ready for a little while. I remember that. And I remember why I got involved. It was because I was in New York and there was no internet. You needed someone in New York who could go to the cemetery or who could go to downtown and look at old files or records or whatever. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I mean, I still cry when I remember the moment that I called you and I said, I have your birth mother's phone number. And I will cry. I cried
Yeah.
when it happened, and then I cried when I gave it to you, but I had, like, I did everything I could do. There was nothing less left to do except for, like, an uncle or a great
It
uncle,
was an
someone who
uncle.
lived in Stuyvesant Town. And I called him and I said, "I'm looking for this person." And I explained the situation, and he was just like, "I can't help you." And I said, "I really would appreciate if you could give me any information." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." And I burst into tears. I'll never forget. I was like, "You're my last call. You are my last hope. I am begging you, please. This is really important." And he gave me the name and the phone number for your birth mother.
I'm for sure going to cry.
It brought us very, very close together, very close together. It was such an emotional experience for both of us that I think we talked about this before, that was a real turning point in our friendship. And it wasn't just because I did a favor for you. It was
No, that
just,
wasn't a favor.
it was like, it was such an emotional moment for you, but also for me. And I mean, it changed your whole life, you know?
For sure.
And by the way,
Mm.
when she died, you gave me a piece of her jewelry. And I keep it right by my bed. And I look at it all the time. And it reminds me of that experience.
Yep. Yeah. You are, never thought about it this way, but you are a central character in all of my mother shit.
You're right.
And there's volumes of it because I had a lot of them.
Yeah. You have you have a stepmother, you have
Yeah.
a birth mother,
3
your
mothers,
adopted
and
mother.
you're part of all the stories. And I think when you talk about depth of friendships, when someone's a part of something like that, it changes your relationship forever. I say sometimes that when you have history with somebody, they can tell by the tone in your voice on the phone which thing
Oh,
it is.
when I call you, you know, just from the way I say hello, if I'm okay or not okay.
Yep.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
but you can. That's how
Yeah.
well you know me.
But that, to me, that's what morphs the friendship into family,
Right.
right? It's all the generations, right? So I knew your parents, I knew your grandparents, you know my parents, my kids love and adore you. I held Ruby when she made her first poop. Like, there's not a way that a new friendship, the silver friendships,
Right.
don't have that depth of field.
No,
It's just
and
not the same.
you have an independent friendship with Ruby. Now that your kids are grown, I have an independent friendship with a
All
couple
of
of
them.
them. All
Yeah.
of them, yes, but I'm quite close with Xander and
Yeah.
Oliver. It's a legacy. I never thought of friendship as a legacy, but it is. Something that's fascinating to me, and I think it comes from experience and age, is how you don't really know when you're young which friendships are going to be lifelong friendships. Because in the moment, you can feel like this person is the greatest, I'm always going to be in contact with them. And then you just, you never know. And I'm not even talking about like a toxic situation. I'm talking about just people come in and out of your life all the time, all the time. Why do those people stick? Like, why did we stick? I mean, part of it is because we were part of a group. And even when we kind of grew away from each other, we always came back because of the group.
Right.
And I think that's something that young people don't think about or understand. They're just in the moment and they have friendships that are maybe 2 years long, 3 years long, maybe 8 years long. That's a long one, you know? But what is it that makes a friendship what makes it sustain versus just disappear, fall apart, or oh, you lost how often do you
Right.
say, oh, I lost touch with that person? Well, someone like me who really tries to nurture my relationships, why would I lose touch with someone? I would never lose touch with you. So why does that even happen?
Well, I mean, I think we're exceptional. We've gone too far to
Right, at
not
this
be
point,
friends.
yeah.
But I think when I think about this question or this idea, maybe she'll hear this. When I was little, my family was a disaster. So friends were everything to me. And I remember being friends with Paula Solacito. And like, I loved her mother. Her mother was like a great Italian cook, nurturer, amazing woman. And I thought Paula and I would be friends for, like, she was everything to me. I was probably in fifth grade. I have no idea where Paula Solacito is or whatever happened to her. She just like vanished from
When?
my,
How
I
long?
have no idea. She just stops existing in my brain.
Right.
But then there are all these other people, like our essential group, like three of us are here right now. But then there are other people from our group who are still central to that whole thing. But now, as adults, as like more adults, we all have individual relationships that are very different
That's right.
than I could have foreseen them being. I think some of what you were saying is developmental. Like as a therapist, when you're 14, you think you know all the things, but you know
You know
nothing
nothing.
because developmentally you can't know.
Right.
But when parents die and divorces happen and kids are a mess and you're having babies and you're doing all the things and all of the really really essential things, a therapist said to me once, love is easy, trust is not. And I think the essential ingredient to those lifelong relationships, you can love somebody when you're 14, but you can only love them as a 14-year-old. But when you have friends from when you're 14 to when you're 59, you've experienced all of those things with people, and that changes the depth of your love, the kind of love. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
cry again.
And you're right about trust. Like so much of it is trust. Like when you asked me to come down to Florida to help move your mom from her home into an elder care facility, I mean, I was like, hell yes, I will be there. Just tell me when. And this part makes me cry. It's like you called me a couple of weeks before, and the first thing you said to me was, I totally understand if you can't come. And I couldn't believe that you thought that there was even a possibility that I would cancel. I was like, of course I'm coming. Like I told you I was coming. I will be there.
But in my mind, it didn't make any sense that people were coming to what I called the everlasting Shiva.
Mhm.
Like my mother hadn't passed, but her life as a human with any independence and all of those things
Yes,
had
was
passed.
ending. Yes.
So for you guys to come to Florida, which is the pit of despair, in my opinion, to be with me while I did all of that and like the impossibility of what I was doing was mind blowing for me. Like I still
No,
get
and
weepy
it
about that.
taught me a lesson because ostensibly I was going to help you move her, do all the logistical stuff, pack up stuff in her home, whatever. But we really didn't do a lot of that. It was basically 3 days of people coming and going, and it was more to support you, and I was so honored to be there to support you. I mean, I hope my friends do that for me. Like, that is really important, just to show up when it's something
Right.
that emotional.
People showing up for stuff like that is not stuff you forget.
You don't forget.
It's impossible to.
No, I will never forget a friend of mine who said she was coming to my mom's memorial service and then just didn't show up. Didn't call, didn't text, didn't say something was wrong, just didn't show up.
Right. You don't forget that.
You don't forget it. I
Right.
forgave her, but I will never forget that. And yes, I don't feel like I can count on that person in the same way I could count on you.
Right.
Never.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think for me, when I think about the evolution of our relationship, like I think about your wedding and I think about that weekend and being there for that. And I think about you pregnant with Ruby and what that meant to like our whole friend group, because Ruby was the first baby and it pulled us all back in a way that feels like developmentally appropriate.
Well, it was the next stage
Right.
of not just our friendship with children now, but it was the next stage of our lives. I mean, what changes you more than having a child? And you were so excited for me. I was the first one of our group to get pregnant, and you were so excited for me, and you would call me all the time. And I'll never forget. Do you remember when I snapped your head off? I was 2 weeks late, and I was in a vile mood for those 2 weeks because I knew they were going to induce me if I didn't go on to labor, and I wanted to have a natural childbirth. And I knew if they induced me, it was just going to be a shit show. And you were calling me and just really supportive and how are you feeling? Are you? And I just remember one time you called and basically you didn't say it this way, but so you're not in labor yet. And I was like, how dare you call me? You're stressing me out. I went crazy on you. I still feel bad about
I have
that.
no recollection of that.
Oh, yeah. Good, because I literally still feel bad about that.
Doesn't exist.
I was hormonal. I was angry. I was scared. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to go into labor and get this baby out of me. And you were the one. And maybe because I felt so comfortable with you, maybe it was because I felt like I could do that to you, but I couldn't do that to someone else. But after I had Ruby, you were down here from Boston literally within 2 days.
I could not wait to get my hands
I know.
on her.
And I know that because she took her very first poop in your hands.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
So I know it had to have been within those first 48 hours.
Yeah, no, she was a little, I remember the giant king size bed over there and the little tiny, you have the picture of the little tiny
Little
Ruby on the
8-pound baby.
big giant bed. So that was like turning a corner relationally and developmentally.
Yeah, we knew everything was going to change after that.
I also have no recollection of the story you reminded me of the other day when we went out to dinner when you were pregnant and I told you couldn't wear that dress again. I had no idea I said that to you.
I mean, that's a good friend who can look you in the eye. Yeah, so I'll just tell the story because I love telling this story. We went, it was like a bachelorette thing, but it was literally the night before my wedding. And we just went out, a group of us. And I was wearing this little tiny short pleated skirt that I wore in college. It was from Patricia Field. And I was 4.5 months pregnant. And I thought I was so hot. I was like, I don't need pregnancy clothes. Look at me. Like, I'm still skinny and I'm still hot. And I'm wearing this little skirt that I wore in college. And my stomach was starting to grow. So the skirt was even shorter than it normally was. and you grabbed me on the way out of Carmine's on the Upper West Side, and you grabbed me, and all you said was, "You can't wear that skirt anymore."
I still have no recollection of that, but it is so
And
something I would
even
say.
though it totally, like, brought me down, like, "Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah." But it was truth. You
I
were
mean,
telling me the truth. You were
it was
being
labia
honest with
length.
me. Yeah,
You
it was
couldn't, no.
crazy. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was, but I think that's also that other component, especially if you're friends with me. Don't ask me a question if you don't want an honest answer,
Right.
because I'm not going to lie to you. So I think that there's a way that you and I communicate that there's no bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just raw. It's just whatever it happens to be in the moment, it is. And that requires longitude,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to be friends with somebody for a really long time to be the full complement of who you are all
It's
the
just
time.
not, you can't be 100% yourself with a new friend. You know, you don't know them. You don't know if you make a joke, if they're going to be offended. You know, you don't know how open they want to be about their lives. Like, you don't want to ask the wrong question. I don't have any of that with you. You know, I can talk to you about anything. I can, it's important. And like, we're talking about honesty, we're talking about trust. Empathy also. Empathy is really important. Like, I have a lot of friends, but not all of them, I feel, have my best interest at heart. And you do, and Steffi does, and you are the first two people I call when I'm sad or when I'm depressed or when I need to talk about something. And that's because I know that you're going to tell me straight out, honestly, what I should do or give me good advice. But it's also because you love me so much. It's because I know that what you tell me is going to be the best thing for me. Like I said, our friendship is a lot longer than all three of our marriages put together. And my old therapist, Esther Perel, she always talked about how in the old days, it took a village, not just to raise a child and all of that, but it took a village to support a person emotionally. And people didn't rely on their husband or wife for everything. Whereas today, that's very common. And the second someone is unhappy, it's usually the marriage that they're unhappy with. I've always leaned on my friends, always, like married or not married. I have always leaned on my friends. There's just so much that you can't talk about in a marriage that you can with another person, with a friend, I'm sorry. And it's really true. Like when I got divorced last year, oh my God, thank God I had the support system I had. Thank God I had the friends I had. I don't know how I would have gotten through it. That was the number one most important thing. And, you know, I was depressed. I was sad. You would talk me down. You would give me advice. You would give me clinical advice. I mean, you helped me so much through my divorce. I don't know what I would have done without you.
There is a way you can have an aura of I got it. Everything's fine. Right? Like nobody would ever think that there was like a dent in your armor. It's just a way that you present. I know that that's not true, but most people don't. There was a way that you allowed me to take care of you in that year that was a gift to me, because it was a whole different vulnerable Elisa that you were able to be with me, that also told me how much you trusted me, because you trusted no one in the middle of that.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
And like some people might be like, oh my God, I can't believe like that you're spending so much time supporting her. That is not what that felt like. That felt like a gift. that felt like you coming to Florida to
Right. I
help
was
me
going
with
to
my
say
mom.
it's the same thing.
It's the same
It's
thing.
showing up, it's being there.
Right.
And go ahead.
I know that there are two people you're going to call if you're hysterical crying and don't know
Right.
what to do, because it's not often that you're hysterical crying and don't know what to do. And I know I'm one of them. And that's like an honor and a privilege. That's not a burden. It's a burden when it's not somebody that you love.
Right.
It's a burden when it's not somebody you have all of this tread and trust with. I know you're always going to show up for me, that all I have to do is pick up the phone and you will show up. I also know in turn that you can be your most vulnerable self with me. And that just feels really
And
special.
that's what closeness is, whether it's in a marriage or a friendship. If you're not vulnerable, it's not real.
Right.
It's not real. And that is something that I've only learned in like the past 8 or 10 years. I always thought I had to be perfect. Like, why would I be in a why would anyone want to be in a relationship with me, a marriage, whatever, if I wasn't perfect? So I presented that way. That's how I've always presented.
Right.
You know, I have a great life, everything's fine, I can take care of myself. And then when you have these life-changing events, you know, like when my mom died or when I got divorced last year, all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, like this isn't working for me anymore.
Right. Not
This is
feeling so
not
perfect.
working. Yeah.
Right.
And I guess there are people that just kind of isolate and like say, well, you know, I'm just going to have to get through this or whatever. No, I'm like picking up the phone every day and calling you and calling Steffi.
Right.
And like I said, that was the number one most important part of my healing, was having all this support.
And as a therapist, I would say that all happened because you allowed it.
Right.
You let, because you isolated from a lot of other aspects of things, but you didn't isolate
Right.
there. You wanted to be here in your safe place with all the things that make your life make sense.
Yeah.
But you allowed Steffi and I to kind of be a life preserver in a way that I think was terrifying to you, but also a gift.
One of the things that I've been giving a lot of thought to is, now that I'm divorced, how much more important my friendships are. Like, they were important before, but now I'm like, okay, am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? You know, and people are like, people die, husbands die, wives die. I mean, like, things happen, and we're at that age where we're really seeing it happen in real time. I had a friend who died in December, my age, 59 years old. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and he died 6 months later. And I think that feeling our mortality makes us want to hold on to people even more. And I know that all the time that I spent with my husband, my ex-husband, is now time that I spend calling people, going out, making plans for dinners. Like, I'm the opposite of the type who isolates. I know that I have to get out there. That's one of the reasons I live in New York. It's one of the greatest places to have a breakup is New York City, because you walk out your door and you're just in it, and you meet people and you talk to people and you never feel alone. So that's been something that I've been thinking about a lot this past year, and sort of thinking about when I'm older and I'm going to be traveling. Am I going to be traveling with a friend? You know, I used to travel with my ex-husband. So you've been single for a while. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Gabby and I talk about it a lot. I talk to my kids about it a lot. One of the things I was thinking when you were talking just a second ago is the reason I was able to fall back in love with New York is because of you. Because you kept me anchored.
And
You
I
were the
love that.
only anchor to New York I had left.
Yeah.
especially Manhattan, because that was never my place, right? I grew up in Queens and I left and never came back. Literally, I
Literally,
left when
I
I was
know.
17 and never came back. And I really didn't like the energy here for a really long time and what it represented to me. And then one day I came here with my kids and they fell in love with New York 100% because of you. And I watched them like settle into their bodies in this like crazy New York energy. And it gave me permission to fall back in love with New York. And so when I think about aging now, this is so weird to me that it's like so full circle. I could imagine having a little studio here somewhere so that I can dip in and out. I don't know that I could live here, but I could for sure do whatever the New York version of being a snowbird
Yeah.
is in New York. I love the energy now. I love everything about. I left this morning to go get breakfast and I didn't take an umbrella and the sky opened up on my way to the place. And I was actually like just settled and in my body and I didn't care that it was raining.
Yeah.
I was like, I am in the city and it's gorgeous, even though it's pouring and everybody's running in every direction, but it felt like home to me. And so when I think about aging, I think about aging with friends. I don't think about aging with a partner. I've been single 90% of my life.
Right.
So
And I haven't been single since I was 18.
Right.
Which is
Which is
crazy
another
that
way
I'm
that we couldn't be
experiencing
more
this for
different.
like the very first time.
Right. And so for me, being single feels normal and not scary. But while I'm watching my parents age and get sick and need support, and I know you deal with the same thing, it's like, oh, well, like, what if I was sick? Who would take care of me? I know exactly who would take care of me. I don't have to think about that twice because I would take care of them.
Right.
And so the idea of like a bunch of little, beach homes right next to each other, like living in a village with the people that
I know.
I love.
I've been seeing that on Instagram. Seems to be a thing that's trending.
I was in the shower this morning thinking, what if I needed to live here? Like, where would I be?
Listen, my dad, you know this, my dad reconnected with his elementary school friends when he moved back to Madrid when he retired 9 years ago. And yeah, the niñas. There are like 8 of them. They are all widowed. They're widows. They're 88 years old and all the husbands have died. And my dad is the only male member of their elementary class that's still alive. And he takes them out and, but my point is that that's life. That's normal. Women live longer than men. And there's going to come a time when we're alone. For me, it's right now. I don't know that it's forever. I don't even know if I want a relationship. I don't know what I want. I've only been divorced for a year. But my friend Carmel lost her husband last year. He was only 68. It's going to happen. Like everyone's going to have to face this at some point. So in a way, I feel like it's a gift that I'm facing it while I'm still young and I'm able to make changes in my life. I started running 2 years ago. I started collecting art. I started doing all these things that made me feel alive and maybe things I wouldn't have done if I was married. So that felt good,
I think right now, or in the last year, the loft became your partner.
Oh, yeah.
And like is the thing that contained you and helped you heal. While it's also a place that people gather and that.
Oh, it's been a constant in my life for 31 years. And I can't say that about either of my marriages or most friendships or anything. It's such a source of comfort to me. But the thing that makes me so happy is that for 31 years, I have shared this space with my first husband and then my second husband. I bought them out. And this is the first time that I have owned this place 100%. And it's so empowering And I know this sounds horrible to say, but I've thought about this. I've thought about, okay, if I could choose my marriage, which I thought was very good, and I loved my husband, if I could choose that or the loft right now at this point in my life, which one would I choose? And I have to say, I think I would choose the loft because this is my safe place. This is a constant. It's everything to me. Yeah.
It's also the nest that your kid flies back to.
Yes.
So that.
Oh, it's important for so many reasons. Well, my relationship with your kids is so important to me. When they contact me just to see how I'm doing, or hey, I'm thinking about coming to New York next weekend. Are you going to be around? Can we get together? It still surprises me. Like, why do they want to hang out with me? You know? But the thing that was literally life changing for me was something that happened with Oliver, which was Oliver contacted me about 3-4 years ago and said that they were doing a project for school, high school at the time, and could they interview me? I said, sure. Well, no problem. So they interviewed me over the phone, asked a whole bunch of questions. And at the end of the interview, I said, so Oliver, what is this project? And they said, it's a project called The Good Life. And we were asked to choose someone in our lives who's influenced us and who has a life that we would strive to have. And I just burst into tears. I couldn't believe that that's how Oliver sees me. And when I went through my divorce and I was in therapy, I held on to that. Like, I told my therapist about it and she just ran with it. I was doing that EMDR therapy and she said, The Good Life. This is how you have to think about yourself. Your life is great. Yes, this horrible thing happened. Yes, you lost the person you love. Yes, you had to go through a horrible divorce, but everything else is the same. You still have your career and you still have your friends and you still have your loft and you still live in New York City and you still have and I think about that all the time.
Do you know what I think is magical about that? I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah.
There was no conversation.
Oh,
with
I'll let
me.
you read it.
There was literally no conversation with me. My kids came down here with me. We have a picture of them wearing New York sweatshirts that you took. My kids are 2 years apart, 2+ years apart each. So it was like this really cute little thing. It was the weekend that they came.
I remember that weekend.
Yep,
they came to my cafe.
They came to your cafe. You taught them how to make fancy
Yeah.
coffee designs and cappuccinos. They felt so important. And then we went out to dinner. First, they tried on clothes at Chelsea Girl. And then we went to dinner and Steven came and he will forever be the guy with the great laugh and the dreads to my kids. That's how they know him. But they fell in love with you. That was the beginning
It was.
of them loving you
Yep.
and loving New York and having
And me, them.
like separate relationships with you. It's like when Oliver called you and said they wanted to buy me a present for Christmas. I have it on now. And they were 16 years old and they knew that they could call you and say, I wanted something special for my mom and it would be a secret and you would help them figure it out. You can forgive people all kinds of shit, but when they trespass on your kids, you're done. It works the opposite way too. When someone loves your kids genuinely for who they are, not just because they're your kids, that's the best. To me, that is, I want you to love me, but I really want you to love my kids. And that really matters to me. So the way they love you and you love them is profoundly important. And it like another part of how we age together. Oliver, Elisa was just telling a story about.
Do you remember the paper, The Good Life?
Yes, I remember it well.
Can you elaborate on what made you choose Elisa and what was the good life that you felt like she had that you wanted to write about?
So I was asked to write a reflection on a person in my life who I believe to be living the good life. And so I decided to write about Elisa. I think mostly because of the agency that I sort of saw her having over her life. I think I've always had Elisa in my life as this person who really has sort of done what she wanted to do and made it happen one way or another, normally to like quite a fantastic level of success, whether that was through vintage clothing stores or cafes or online businesses. It was always something that spoke directly to what she wanted to do with her time and her life. And it was also always her own. Then I got to talk to Elisa just sort of about what that process of building this life has been over, many, many years. And I think I just got to hear a bunch about what it's been like to wander the world, figuring out what she wanted to do today and tomorrow, and not necessarily in 30 years. Having this person who lived this admirable life say that she would never be able to work for someone else, I think just meant a lot to me to like see that, like, oh, there's a path out there that I don't even know yet. She didn't even know this was going to be the path for her. And still, there's sort of this faith that it's going to work out regardless.
It's funny because I've always sort of lived my life intentionally. And when I say intentionally, I never had a plan. I always just sort of, like I always say, I'm not ambitious, but when an opportunity presented itself, I always took it, and I did it fearlessly. But I never sort of had a goal or a plan. I just sort of let life happen to me. I don't know how to say it. It's like so emotional for me. The fact that you feel that way about me and that of all the people that you've met in your life to write this paper about me, it's like it made me see myself in a very different way. When I say it was life-changing, I mean it. And especially having gone through this horrible divorce and then, therapy. And I was saying to Beth that my therapist, like when I mentioned this paper that you wrote, she seized it and she like drummed it into me. And she's like, it's not just you. It's like other people think this and you do have a good life. And it was life-changing, honestly, to see yourself through someone else's eyes and the way that you were looking up to me and maybe even modeling some things in your life after mine. It's like, it was a complete surprise.
I recently have talked about this idea with a few friends of like holding up a mirror to each other. And that sometimes you're in a stressful time or a high stress situation where you sort of start to lose your vision of yourself. And sometimes all it takes is someone who's known you for a long time to look at you and like remind you of what you've done and who you are and how you act and just put you back to that person, set you back to your sort of ground level. And I think that in a moment where I was being asked, who lived a life in the way that you might want to, while I was getting ready to go off to college and trying to figure out what my next 4, 5, 20 years was going to look like, having a role model in my life who was in such a different place from me, doing their life confidently, boldly, in the good and the bad moments, was just really inspiring. And all of those things that I thought about you are still true. And who you are today is still the same. Getting to reflect on this simple homework assignment as a thing that was pretty monumental for how I decided I wanted to look at the future, but also pretty monumental for how you decided to look at yourself.
Unbelievably monumental. It was a complete life changer. And even though I'm a confident person and I feel good about myself and I have good self-esteem, seeing myself through your eyes was a completely different experience. Isn't it kind of cool to talk about our friendship in this way?
Yeah, that was fun.
Like just to reflect and think about all these years, like so many years.
We could do this all day.
We could do this all day. I know. It's like we haven't even talked about all the millions of stories that we have.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we will. Well, it was really great talking to you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
You're the best.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the first podcast of Golden. And if you want to connect with me on social media, you can go to chelseagirl.nyc or Tales from the Junk Pile.
And I'm Beth, and you can find me at Glow Mama B on Instagram.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and join us next time. Thanks a lot.